If you're struggling to get topspin, then there's one position in particular you must copy from Felix Auger-Aliassime, and it's this position right here. Look at his racket. His strings are facing the ground. This is the moment where the butt cap is pointing at the ball. When your strings face down right before you hit, you can see it again right there. When the strings face down before hitting, it allows you to swing up and through contact to get spin. This is how you're going to get the ball to spin over itself. When you point your strings down, it allows you to swing up. Let's watch this previous forehand right here. This is a perfect view of it. Look at the strings. Now, I have people in the comment section all the time saying, Ryan, the pros aren't thinking about pointing their strings down. And I just want to say to those people, I know. Don't you think I know that? Look, I don't think about breathing, but it's important to living, right? So just because something's done without thinking doesn't mean it shouldn't happen or shouldn't be focused on for people who aren't doing it. So pointing your strings down after the racket closes, when the strings face down, it's what allows your strings to then face forward when you're striking the ball. You want your strings to be facing forward, and the way to do that is by actually to have your strings face down prior to hitting the ball. Then when you swing up and through contact, you get the topspin that you need. Now, to help me demonstrate this, I've got the Topspin Pro here. To get your own, just use my link. It's in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. I always find it interesting when players, and maybe even coaches in the comment section here on YouTube, discuss topics like the pros don't think about this. This just happens naturally or intuitively. The problem with that line of thinking is, well, what do you do with the player who doesn't do it automatically? Just say, hey, you're out of luck. You should probably pick another sport. Most recreational players, when they learn to play the game, and even many recreational players who have been playing for years, have the racket straight up and down prior to hitting a forehand. Even if they have like a semi-Western grip, they'll still have their racket straight up and down because their brain is trying to prepare for straight up and down at contact. The problem with that is when your racket is straight up and down prior to hitting, it leads to the racket being open when you strike the ball. Or then you have to roll the racket to try to get it square against the back of the ball, and then your hitting zone is so short that you have to have perfect timing to get that ball to go in. So rather than saying, hey, you know what? Look, you're just not destined to have topspin because you're not doing it naturally like the pros. Forget about that line of thinking. If you're struggling with topspin, tilt your strings down toward the ground and then swing up as you hit the ball. That is what is going to get the ball to spin with topspin. Now, the way to close your racket face isn't to worry about the grip as much as it is to tilt your palm toward the ground. Where your palm faces, depending on the grip you use, is basically where your strings are facing. So if your racket is straight up and down, it's because your palm is facing to the side. So when you take your racket back and you drop your racket down, tilt your palm toward the ground, your strings will do the same thing, and then you can spin up the back. Now, one of the reasons players struggle with this is because they don't trust it. And they tilt their strings down, and then as they approach the ball and they open up their wrist. And that's because they're not used to their strings facing down, but rather they're used to their strings facing the ball. So when they're below the ball, closed racket face, and they go up to contact, they think, oh my gosh, I gotta point my strings at the ball. And then they open up the wrist at contact. So here's an easy way to fix that. We know now that the racket should be closed prior to hitting the ball. What I want you to do is lead with the top edge of the racket toward the bottom of the ball. I want you to come up under the ball like you're gonna try to hit the south pole of the ball with the top frame. And you're almost gonna try to do this. I actually want you to try to hit the bottom of the ball. What will happen is you will miss the edge, you will use the strings, and you are gonna spin the ball. So let me hit some shots here. And I always like to add a split step, turn high, tilt the strings down, swing up. The goal is to spin that ball. And you'll see right here, my strings are facing the ground. Don't I look like Felix? Without the talent. Strings down, spin up the back. Now I'm not swinging super fast, and I don't need to.
I know that he has more of a lag. I get that, but that's also based on the racket speed he's able to produce. I cannot swing as fast as he does, so I'm not going to have as much lag as he has. Last one. Tilt your strings down prior to hitting a topspin forehand, and then keep the strings facing down as you swing up to the ball. Feel like you're going to hit the bottom of the ball with the top edge. I can promise you, you won't hit the top edge. You're going to use the strings. You'll spin that ball beautifully up over the net, tons of net clearance, and beautiful drop from that topspin to keep that ball in the court. Now, if you're looking for people in your local area to play matches against or practice with, or if you want to find a coach who's close to you who can help you with your game, then use my link for PlayYourCourt. It's playyourcourt.com/2-minute-tennis. When you use my link to sign up, you get 50% off. Get your Topspin Pro, tilt your strings down, and swing up as you hit the ball. If you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.